All right, Coach, let him have it.
Hey guys, I don't deserve that. I just want to first and foremost just thank this Red Rocks Austin campus. I want to thank Ethan, Ryan, Doug. I want to thank your entire team. You guys have been amazing. Nick for picking me up. You the man. Where's Nick? What's up, baby? Thank you. I especially want to thank Sean. I mean, you know, Sean, like you said earlier, Sean and I are great friends. Him and Jill, they've built something that's just amazing. To be one of the guys that was in that creepy theme park at Heritage Square when they started, and to see what you've built now to where, you know, we're not in Denver anymore, bro. We're literally in Texas. And
come on.
I'm just so proud of you, and you know, Red Rocks Austin, you guys are amazing, and it's been amazing to meet some of you guys so far, and I just want to thank you guys one more time for giving me the ability to be here. I'm super humbled and honored to be here, and when I came in, one of the guys asked me, he said, "Coach, are you here to preach or are you here to fight?" And I said, "Yes." And so...
Amen.
Hey, but not the fight like you're thinking. I'm actually here to fight for you. I'm here to fight for us. And I just want to give you some of that secret sauce that I've learned from just failing. I mean, the biggest thing, guys, is this hasn't become a road of success without a massive amount of failure. And, you know, Sean has been a part of that, and he's seen that. He's seen the vulnerability of all that. And, you know, the biggest thing, guys, is... I would love to give you an acronym, and I think with a group like this, if I gave you an acronym that had a P and a double D, you guys would both be like, heck yeah, right?
It's all right. We chanted men earlier.
What if for my
Jesus,
fight
forgive
fans, after that P and double D, I gave you a DDP? Okay, maybe not. All right, so listen. If you don't know what DDP is in the fight world, it's Driscus Duplessis. He just fought last weekend. He did get his butt kicked, but we're going to use his initials. Hey, that first one, the P double D, what I want to just challenge you guys real quick before I sit down is I just want to challenge you guys to practice discipline daily. And I want you to do that when you step foot in the shower before you get your day going. And I just want you to ask yourself this, pre your day. What am I going to do to practice discipline daily? And then when you're done with the day, I want you to go to DDP. I want you to say, was daily discipline practiced? And if you guys can answer yes to that, or you can answer no to that, the biggest thing, fellas, is not that we're going to succeed every day doing that, but we're going to find direction arrows. And what I'm after this evening for you and for us and for we is to just find some direction arrows. Give you guys that secret sauce, better than that, even that Texas barbecue sauce, amen? So I'm just here to help you with some of that secret sauce. And remember, let's practice daily discipline. And then at the end of the night, let's ask, was daily discipline practiced? And so, hey, I just want to one more time before we get into this, I just want to thank you guys. And again, I'm humbled and honored to be here. So thank you guys.
I love you so much, Coach. I
Love
wanna
you too,
put this
bro.
Up here, but we got a Bible up here, pretending to be all spiritual. I'm gonna let you have that. Coach, tell everybody just a little bit about yourself. We're gonna get into the topic of the night and staying in the fight and all that good stuff. For those who may not be UFC fans and who don't understand exactly, you know, who you are, how you got into this deal. Would you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you got to be to the point where I go in the dude's office and there's just plaques everywhere of best coach, best coach, best coach. And here's the crazy thing, and he won't tell you this because he's too humble. Every UFC coach I know, they coach sitting down. This dude fights with his fighters every single day. Like, he doesn't train by talking, he trains by fighting. When I go to the gym on Wednesdays at 3:30, when I don't have a torn labrum, another story, he's always taping up something with a black eye and a deal, and he's like, yeah, I've been getting kicked in the head since 8 a.m. Like, dude fights all day long to train these fighters, and he's one of the best ever. And so one more time, make some noise for him. And Coach, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this thing, because it's crazy what you do.
You know, I never set out to be a UFC coach. I legitimately just set out to invest in people, and that, you know, God graced me with the ability to do that, and you know, the cage just essentially became my classroom. That's what happened. And I think with the needs and the wants to just invest in people, that's why I sit in this seat, because I have never done it. I never sought out to do that. And you know, to be in this seat now, to have those accolades that Sean spoke about, that was never my motivation. My motivation was to go invest in people. And I tell my fighters every single day, and if you were a new fighter and you called me, I'd tell you the same thing. My first job is not to help you become a world champion in the cage. My first job is to help you become a world champion in life. If we can become a world champion in life first, then we can go become a world champion in the cage. And here's the reason. If life is peaks and valleys, the issue is that the cage is going to be peaks and valleys. And what we're after is we're after ripples. Because life's not going to be perfect, but we're after ripples. When we peak and valley, the problem is that we have a ton of digging out to do. And when we're on top, we're great, and when we're in the depths or the valley, we're not. And so we want to find that ripple effect. And I have found that, like Sean was saying, that I can't do that by just talking about it. I'm just not that kind of guy. I always say that fighting is a prove-it sport, and so is life. And so I have a fighter that I think can beat your fighter, and we're going to get in the cage, and we're going to prove it. And I look at life the same way. And I want to prove it by doing. I don't like sayers, I like doers. And so that's how I became a UFC coach. But if we back up quickly, and well, maybe not quickly because I'm 50 now, Sean. But if we
tell them how you got started fighting. I think that's just crazy.
So this is how this happened. So I was a young kid. I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, I'd like to box." And she said, "You're not boxing." And I said, "Come on, Mom, I'd like to box." And so she said, "You're not boxing." I said, "Okay." So I grew up in a tough neighborhood in Denver, Colorado. And my parents were 16, 17 when they had me. We lived with my grandmother, one of those stories. And so, you know, I decided this would be one of those stories where instead of asking for permission again, I'm just going to ask for forgiveness later. And so what I did is a friend of mine, Antonio, and I, we decided we were going to go box. He was already boxing at this gym in Colorado. It was called St. Joe's. It was in the basement of a Catholic church. And so, unfortunately, it was sitting on a cross street that was in a rival gang neighborhood from where I came from. It's 6th and Inca. And so what we would do is, I was telling my mom I was playing basketball because it was the winter time. Antonio and I would run the train tracks, and we'd run from Federal and Alameda to 6th and Inca. It's about a 6-7 mile jog. And so we'd run over there, we'd box, we'd make sure we always wore neutral colors, and then we'd run back home. And you know, when you come from parents that are 16, 17, kind of living by the seat of your pants is not so hard. So getting to and from places, it wasn't like they were always navigating that. And so, but I'd come home, I'd have a black eye, I'd have a fat lip, and my mom would say, what happened? And I'd say, I caught a rebound playing basketball. And she'd, okay, no worries. And so a few months goes by, and my coach is like, "Mark, man, you're really growing, you're flourishing. I think we should test you and get your first boxing match." Well, the problem when you're young, you don't have that foresight of thinking about that. So when he hands me the piece of paper and says, "I need your guardian or parent to sign this, and you need to get a ride to your first boxing match," it dawned on me that I was going to have to go ask for forgiveness. So I go home reluctantly, and I hand my mom kind of sneakily this piece of paper, and I say, "Can you sign this for me?" And she looks at me, and she's like, "What's that for?" I said, "For my first boxing match." She goes, "What?" And I said, "For my first boxing match." And she goes, "Boxing match? I thought you were playing basketball. I said, no, Mom, I haven't been playing basketball. I said, I've been boxing. And she freaks out on me, yells at me. And the one thing that always stuck with me to this day is she said, okay, fine. You want to box? She goes, fine. She goes, then in this first match that you're going to have, if you lose, you're done boxing. Well, I won, fellas. That's why we're sitting here. So,
Hey! I want to move on to some serious stuff. In 60 seconds, tell them what that place was like. This was pre-UFC days when you would go in and you didn't even know what you were fighting yet.
yeah, so, back in the day when, in 1993, the UFC, its first place it came was to Denver. And at that time, it was pretty much a hobby. And so we weren't getting paid anything. And if you were doing it, people thought you were doing like Billy Blank's Taekwondo. I don't even know what it's called. But they just didn't know what it was. And so I don't even know if we knew what it was. But at the time, it wasn't even called MMA. It was called Vale Tudo, which is a Portuguese word for anything goes. And what happened is we would show up to just a rented strip mall, little facility, 1,200 square feet maybe. There'd be a keg in there. There'd be no judges, no paramedics, no commission, no scale. They would just look at you and go, Sean, how long you been training? 8 months. Hey, Mark, how long you been training? A year. Okay, you guys look the same size. You want to fight? And be like, yeah, let's do it. And so we would fight. And back in the day, I got really lucky. I landed in a place called Champions. It doesn't exist anymore, but it had a boxing ring, it had a cage, and then it had an open mat. And so you got to pick every Friday night, what do you want to do, or do you want to do multiple if you can get through your first match somewhat unscathed to be able to do that. And so people would come in off the street. You'd have people at the gym that would train, and essentially that's how a lot of fighting, not just for me, but in that era, that's essentially how that was. And so that was the inception of how I got introduced to that. And the funny part is, and I'll date myself a little bit, is I went to a seminar with the authentic Thais in Clearwater, Florida, by sending in a handwritten information sheet with my info on it, with a full-page ad saying, come train with the authentic learning authentic Muay Thai in Clearwater, Florida, and fight at the end. So I hand wrote that, sent it in the mail. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from a Thai guy, and I thought it was one of my buddies pranking me. He's like, oh, hello, Mark, this Woot Kamnok. And I was like, who is this? And at the time, we didn't have cell phones either, so he caught me at home. And he says, you like to fight? And I was like, stop pranking me. Who is this? And he explained that it was him. And so, that's how far dated it is. Like today, these guys, they don't make the money that they deserve or earn, but today they can go out and they can actually support a family and do some of those things. Back in the day, it was more of a hobby when I did it. But as a coach now, I've been so blessed to be able to train these guys in what is the hardest sport that you can find on this world.
So I read your accolades. You go in his gym and it's just, you look up at the ceiling and there's belts for a mile. And it's like, man, look at all these victories. Look at everything you've done. We're talking about staying in the fight tonight. You ever had a moment where you're pursuing what you think God wants you to do and everything inside of you says, I'm out, I quit?
Yeah, I've had those moments 100 times, thousands of times. I've seen fighters getting prepared in camp want to quit 100 times. I've seen guys on the stool want to quit. I just shared with Sean today, one of my fighters, Dustin Jacoby, he is one of the top 20 light heavyweights in the world. He was on the stool in between the second and third round, and he looked at me and he goes, Coach, I got nothing left. And I looked at him and I said, Dustin, you got everything left. We've prepared for this. We've worked for this moment. I said, don't you dare quit. And the reason I say don't you dare quit, because look, if you guys want to quit, it doesn't erase the fight. It's still coming. What it does is it erases your win. And so you got to remember that, guys. If you're thinking about quitting anything, it's not that it's going to erase this fight. The fight's coming. It's that it's going to erase your ability to go out there and find victory and win. Because behind every fight, result or not, you're going to find W's there. And so I've had hundreds of moments thousands of moments where I've wanted to quit. I know as a coach I've wanted to quit. I know as a human being I've wanted to quit. I know when I had kidney cancer, I wanted to quit. I know that, when I think about quitting, one of the stories that comes to my mind is when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's sitting there knowing what's coming. He knows. His disciples don't know, like he knows. But he's sitting there knowing. He's in so much anguish that he is essentially sweating blood. And he asks his disciples, he said, will you guys accompany me? Will you come with me? Will you stay awake with me? And what happens, fellas, is that his disciples, they fall asleep not once but 3 times. And you want to talk about a story of grace and not quitting? If it was me, I'd be pissed. My homies are asleep when I needed them the most. But God shows us a better way. Jesus showed us, he said, no, I'm going to give grace. I'm going to give grace here. And he said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so, when he's talking about that, he never quit on those disciples, even though you could argue potentially they did to him. But the grace he gave, that's the leader that we want in our life. Those are the people we want in our corner. And when you find a group of men who's being led by Jesus, by God, essentially the men that are part of that are just the disciples, as he is the administrator of what we're doing. He's not quitting on us. Even when we fall asleep 3 times, he's not quitting on us when he's sweating blood. He's not quitting on us. And so the biggest thing is when you guys give yourself the ability to go surround yourself with those type of people and put him first, the quitting, like I said, is not going to erase the fight coming. It's just going to erase the W. So let God go win for you.
Come on. When we train, he makes me sit in the sauna after the workout. And he lets me train in the octagon so I could pretend I'm a UFC fighter. Thank you for doing that, Coach. But one of the things we talk about all the time is, and I said it earlier, is like we all fight. You say, how do you say it? We all fight just in different arenas.
Right.
And it's so true. And in a room like this, everybody's fighting something. Everybody's wanting to quit. And we have talked at length about the only way like we get through this stuff is by being courageous enough to actually be real with some other men of God and let them in to the places that we try to hide from everybody. He said to me a few days ago, he said, Sean, we just weren't built to fight alone. We weren't built that way. It's not how God wired us. And as men, that's a hard thing to get past. And so if you're here tonight, and no matter what's going on in your life, and you got this thing in you that says, I want to quit, and maybe you've even said this, God, I wish you would just talk to me. Consider him talking to you right now. We read his word tonight. Galatians 6:9, I won't do it, but we probably got tattoos in here of that one. If you do not give up, at the proper time, you will reap a harvest. If you do not give up, don't quit, but let some dudes help you fight. That'll help you stay in the fight. And we're going to talk about our friendship here in a second, but I want you to know that those aren't just words he says. It's how he lives, and not just with me, with everyone he trains. This dude has decided, and he's too humble to tell you, that he's going to change the world for the kingdom of God. And he works in a place where, trust me, I go into this gym, there aren't a lot of people in the corners going, let's talk about Jesus. It's a rough place, and everybody in there's got a real rough past. And he's decided, no, I'm called to be the light where God has me, even if it's in one of the hardest places to be a light. And he's got my assistant's phone number and texts her every weekend is like, save me a row, save me 2 rows. And he brings in a row to 2 rows every week of people who have felt hopeless in life. Because he's just decided, I'm gonna be a light where God has me. And he really does. He fights for people, and he doesn't just talk about it, he does it. And it's not just me, he does it with everybody in his life. Would you guys roll this clip? This ESPN literally came to our church one weekend and wanted to talk to all of us. And I was like, I made it. And they're like, nah, bro, we're here with Mark Montoya. Here's a highlight from that video. Play that.
Hey, this is what it's about right there. Hey, what you feeling, keep it. Keep it to make it sharp. Oh, yeah, feel it, Chris. Feel it. That's living right there, baby.
Chris Gutierrez has earned everything that has materialized in his UFC career. And by the way, Mark Montoya, good to see him here in the corner. He has had a health scare this week. It was a staph infection. They later learned that he had cancer in his kidney. But Mark, of course, wanted to be here for Chris.
That was the biggest fight of my life. And on top of that, getting, you know, one of the worst news that you can get as well is that someone dear to you can be taken from you.
Oh, that's it.
Huge knee for El Guapo!
You know, my coach, we just found out that he's got cancer in his kidney, so, man, it's just been a roller coaster. So he just got out of the hospital Thursday night, and he got on a plane to be here with me, so I took that as motivation that if he's got cancer and he came out here, so he's fighting for us, how could I not fight, you know, and give everything that I have for him?
I'm at the gym one day, and coach is like, man, I got to go to the doctor. I got a bee sting. Remember that? And it was like, and he's showing it to me, and it's like, doesn't look like a bee sting, bro. It looks like a bullet hole. And he went to the doctor, had like, was it like a staph infection or something like that? And then all of a sudden he calls me, and he's like, bro, they did tests because they thought I had some sort of infection from this bee sting. They were just trying to deal with the bee sting on my leg and found out I have kidney cancer. And he's supposed to stay in the hospital. And his fighter, Chris, who I know because Chris has been on the front row with Coach at church. Chris has got the fight of his life in Madison Square Garden. And Coach tells the doctors, I'm out. And they're like, you ain't going anywhere, bro. And he goes, watch me. And he leaves the hospital. I remember Jara called me. She's like, he's shaving right now. He won't listen to anybody. He's going to New York. And he got on a plane after being told he can't leave the hospital with kidney cancer. And he's like, no, my guy needs me. And he gets on this plane, goes to Madison Square Garden. The fight was unreal. Chris knocks out a legend with a flying knee, as you just saw. And in the interview afterwards, like this rough and tough fighter gets real teary. Like I was literally crying video in my TV. And he's like, my coach, I can't tell you what it means. He's fought through so much, but he showed up here for me. And he's like, my life is different because of you, coach. My faith is different. My future is different. Everything about me is different because you have been there for me when I was hurting. And he turns this like crazy huge UFC win into this speech about how much you mean to him because you sacrificed everything to be there for him. And I think I was so emotional watching it, coach, because I'm like, I'm in a long line of people that would say, my life is also changed. And in front of all these guys here, I want to say thank you for being such a good friend to me, for fighting for me when I didn't want to fight for myself, for calling me and telling me, no, we're going to kiss this fire and walk away whistling. And you said, I'm going to be with you every step of the way, and you have been.
We will be.
I love you, bro. Thank you for...
Love you too, dog.
Coach, talk to these men for a second about that phrase that you said to me, we weren't built to fight alone. How does that work with you and your fighters? Because it's just cool for us to hear this behind the scenes stuff. But then how does it work for like us in life?
So Sean shared the backstory. The doctor said, hey, if you get on a plane and you go fly, you just had surgery for that staph infection. However, we found the cancer in your kidney. We're gonna have to remove that entire kidney once your infection subsides. But you getting on the plane after having surgery, you risk your life getting on that plane. And I said, I'm not gonna live my life in fear. If I die on that plane, then I die on that plane because I'm doing something that I was meant to do. And when Chris came to the hospital, he said to me, he said, I could see the fear in his eyes that he was gonna go fight alone. That was the biggest fear he had. Like, Coach, you gonna be there? I said, Chris, I promise you I'll be there. You're not looking good, Coach. I said, I promise you I'll be there. I told my wife, I said, hey, whatever it takes, I'm getting to the Madison Square Garden. And I said, and my wife does not like to travel. And I said, if that means you're coming with me, then you're coming with me. And I said, and by the way, I can barely walk, so you're gonna have to go find a dope cane for me online somewhere.
He wouldn't use crutches, but he walked into Madison Square Garden with a cane like, what's up?
So the doctors gave me 3 choices. They said, hey, you can use a walker. I said, what? I said, I'm going to Madison Square Garden, dog. I'm not using a walker. You can use crutches. I'm not doing that. I said, what's my other option? They said, well, maybe a cane. So I said to my wife, I said, babe, I said, Jara, find me a dope cane online and get that thing here quickly. And she did. She found like this wooden cane with this warrior's head on the handle. And I was like, okay, we can do this thing. And so, you know, Chris's biggest fear was he's going to have to go into that fight alone, and I understand. We worked really hard to go fight a legend like Frankie Edgar and go into his backyard and win a fight we weren't supposed to win. And, you know, one of the phrases I've used with Chris especially, but I consistently use in life and I use with some of my other fighters, is that you have to find 5 seconds of courage at a time. You can't eat a sandwich in one bite. So we got to go find 5 seconds of courage. And when you find that 5 seconds, we got to reset, take a deep breath, recalibrate this thing. We got to go find 5 more seconds. And so, you know, that phrase is always held true, because win or lose, you're going to have to go look things in the eye, and you're just going to have to take a deep breath, and you're just going to have to say, okay, I'm going to take 5 seconds, and I'm going to find some courage to go do this thing. And guys, I want to tell you something real quick. We use this acronym, and it's AGE, age. And you only control 3 things in your day. You don't control anything else, just so you know. You control your attitude, you control your gratitude, and you control your effort. That's it. The rest of that stuff is nonsense. And if we can hit those 3 key points and find 5 seconds of courage, the brotherhood and the strength, even the failure that you find, you'll figure out how to turn that stuff into a success. And here's the thing, it's not easy to do. I'm not acting like this is easy, but I never met a fight that was easy. Neither have you guys. Everything you're dealing with right now is not easy. And hey, like Sean said earlier, if life right now is great, awesome. But when life is great, you have to keep training. We have to stay ready. We got to stay sharp, because something's coming. Something's coming. And I don't want you to have that like half-empty look. I want you to have the preparedness look. Go back to the PDD, DDP. Are you practicing the daily discipline that it takes to stay ready? Are we connecting with God? I was having a discussion with Nick on the way over here as he drove me from the airport to the church. And one of the things we were discussing is, I said, it's really important that in any relationship that you have great communication. If your communication lacks, the problem is that we have failure a lot of times and we don't know why. And we wonder what happened. It's the same with God. God's asking us constantly to have a relationship with really good communication and discipline, so that we can form a relationship with Him, so that we can go give to others. Because fellas, we're not going to do this alone. There's no way you're going to lead anybody or help anybody by doing this alone. I've gone into so many fights where I was like, please, let your will be done. Not my will, let your will be done. And he's led me into some crazy caves that I didn't want to go into. But what I've learned is that the caves you fear is where the treasures you seek are the most. So hey, those caves that you guys are fearing, when you're unable to find 5 seconds of courage, you got to just look yourself in the mirror like my fighter Joe Warren used to do. And he would say, I'm the baddest MF on the world. And he would look in a mirror 5 minutes before the fight, and he would convince himself, verbally saying this out loud, didn't care who was there. And he would convince himself that that's who he was before he walked out. And like Sean said earlier, MF is what?
Man of faith.
Man of faith.
Obviously. Coach, when we don't have what it takes, the 5 seconds of courage, we feel like we don't even have the strength to summons. I think that's, we talk about this all the time. That's when we need each other the most. Talk to these guys about your decision to get into a small group with other guys and actually be real and vulnerable, because you can all go sign up to get in a group. We can start 50, 100 men's groups tonight. If we don't go into them with that courage to be real, it's not going to do much. And I know that you're a man's man. You're the guy that says nobody can mess with me. I don't have a chink in my armor. You grew up in an area where you weren't allowed to have a chink in your armor. Yet I get to be in this group with you, and I've been in groups when you come in and share real hard, real hurtful, real things. How hard is that to be vulnerable when you got something in you that wants to be the man?
I would say the hardest part for myself, and I'm probably speaking to a lot of you, is just the vulnerability part. How am I going to go be vulnerable amongst a bunch of people? How can I trust that my vulnerability is not going to be taken for granted? How my vulnerability isn't going to be taken into different directions that spiral into me being hurt worse? And what I would say to you guys is this: we are not the founders of this group thing. I want you to look into your Bible, and I want you to look at this. When when Jesus sent his disciples out to go fight, to go spread the word, he never sent them out in singles. He sent them out in duos. He said, as a team, you're going to go out and you're going to pronounce our word. He said, you're going to go out and you're going to do this as a team. You're going to need each other to live and fight this fight that we're after. You're going to need each other to say, man, I am having a tough day. It was tough to spread the word today. How do we get better tomorrow? You're going to need that team. And by the way, guys, think about this real quick. Jesus himself didn't walk this planet alone. He decided he needed 12 disciples to go do this thing together. The man himself decided, I need 12 disciples to help me walk through this walk. I can't do it alone, even though I'm the Son of God. If the man himself is making that kind of decision, then what is holding us back? And I ask that question only because for me, one of the biggest things was I was going to be held to a standard that I had to make sure I could uphold. Will I have the discipline daily to reach out to my brothers when I'm tired, when I don't know the answer? Will I show up to my men's group when I just got done with a hellacious weekend? And we meet twice a month, which to some of you may not seem a lot, but for me, that's a massive commitment. Will I have the ability to be vulnerable amongst these men when I need help? Because like Sean said earlier, I don't want to burden you with my stuff. If that's my attitude, though, how in the heck are we going to get through this thing alone? Because when you're fighting this thing alone, fellas, the problem is that it attacks your life. It attacks your faith, and it attacks your marriage or your relationship you have if you're not married. But when you can go do this together with your disciples, whether it's 12, we have 8, it's 4. The point is you're not doing that alone. If you can go do that, if you can just commit to that, then you're not fighting alone, just like it says. We're going to stay in this fight together. I've never seen a fighter go into a fight in the UFC without a corner and get to the corner stool by himself and go, well, what are we going to do now? It's never happened. Some of these dummies bring their girlfriend at least. But at
Mike Perry.
But at the end of the day, they still had someone there. It's too vulnerable to go do this thing, to go put yourself in your underwear in a locked cage against someone that wants to put you in the hospital in front of millions of people viewing this thing, to do alone. So what I continue to challenge myself, my group, and you guys is, hey, your walk is your walk. That's your solo walk. But the fingerprints amongst your walk are among your team. When you see these fighters get into this cage, you see them alone. I get it, they're alone. But what you don't see is you don't see all the late night texts, the weight cuts, the training partners. You don't see all that stuff. You don't see the fear that they have when they're like, I don't know if I can do this. The thing is, if we can have the fingerprints amongst our team, amongst our group, amongst the men that we're shoulder to shoulder with on our success, you know how good that feels when another man tells you, you changed my life. My wife reminds me constantly. That is not normal when people say that to you. That is God-given, and you are blessed to be able to be told that. And so at the end of the day, guys, you can't go into isolation alone. The things you love most, the joy you want, is not going to come from isolation. It's going to come from vulnerability. And I had to learn that the hard way. It took me 40-some years to say, okay, in 2018, I decided, okay, I'm going to go be vulnerable finally. Don't wait till you're in your 40s to do that. And if you are in your 40s right now, go do it. Because it's not too late. But my point is, hey, go be vulnerable. Go live life with somebody that has your back. Because like I said to you, the man himself surrounded himself with 12 disciples that technically weren't even qualified. But did it matter? Not to him, because we read about them all on a daily basis. And when we look at that, those are the people that we look up to. Those are the people that I go, wow, I want to be more like that.
We call our group Fight Club. What happens at Fight Club? Or how's that saying?
Stays.
What was the line? Yes, don't talk about what happens at Fight Club. I sometimes share stuff on the sermons, and the guys are like, all right, we're going to have to hurt you. We don't miss. It's the thing. I don't know a group of busier guys than my small group. Every one of them owns their own company. They're busy, type A, go-getters. And like Mark's in Abu Dhabi for 6 weeks during COVID at fights, and he's zooming in at 2 a.m. because we don't miss. We just rode bikes up a stupid mountain. The things people do in Colorado. I was talking to Mark. He's like, bro, I've been getting kicked in the head since 8 a.m. this morning. I fought with all 8 fighters today. Then I went to strength and conditioning. Then he came to small group because he's like, we don't miss. We're sold out for this thing. And he rides a bike up a hill because that's what we happen to be doing that night. What I love about this group, though, is we're all different. Don't go in the lobby and look for 8 people that agree with you on everything in life. You don't have to go out in the lobby and look for 8 more of you. Diversity is beautiful. And I get such a great perspective on life from guys who don't do church work. And so we don't miss. And if we do, it's like a real deal. We don't miss. We decide that we're going to be real. And then you don't even have to, it's not like no one's asking you to be a pastor to lead a group. Like we just 1 week, next Fight Club I'm hosting. And then the next one he'll host, and the next one he'll host. And we'll go through books together, or read the Bible, books of the Bible together and discuss it. But every time we get together, we go around the circle, and you have to share what's going on in your life. And no BS. Give us the real stuff. And there's just things you can talk about in a men's group that you just can't do in a couples group. And I love couples groups. This doesn't have to be the only group you're a part of. But there's things in marriage, in being a dad, and like real temptation and real stuff that we need men to talk to that. So we go around the circle. And if you say anything's up with your marriage, like, you don't get to just be like, oh yeah, we're just kind of struggling and then move on. It's like, no, tell us about that. What's the hardest thing about that? And then we challenge each other. What are you doing to fix that? I remember you came to, it was our Christmas party. You were telling, no, was it you or Brian Austin was in a fight with their wife? Was that you that was in a fight with Jera?
No, that wasn't me, babe. You're the best.
Anyways, it doesn't matter. We're going to wrap this up. We get real. And we challenge each other like, bro, you can't be serious. She's not going to take that. Like, be a better man. Take your wife on more dates. Why weren't you in church? Let me challenge your thinking on that. Like, we get in each other's kitchen all the time. But we're real, and we decided to be vulnerable. And I'm just telling you, it has changed my life. Coach, we're out of time. We're going to end it with this. Everyone in here's got excuses in their mind. I'm too busy. I don't need it. I don't have time. I tried it once before. It didn't work. We've all got them. From your heart to these guys, as the toughest dude I know, why do they need to get in a small group, and how is it going to change their life?
Guys, I just want to thank you one more time for having me here. And I just want to tell you this. The gentleman that started our small group, his name's Brian Austin. He made a profound statement. He said, I had my birthday party. This is before our small group existed. And he said, I had a birthday party. There was like 50 people in my house. And I was walking around my house, and I realized none of these people know me. They're just acquaintances. They're not real friends. You know, there's that statement that you have deal friends and you have real friends. So he looked around and he was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go find some individuals that I can have real friends with that actually know me. I don't want another birthday where I have a house full of people and I look around and I go, none of them know me. So, you know, what I would say to you guys is one of my favorite quotes, and I have this on the wall at my gym, is iron sharpens iron. I love that verse in Proverbs for a multitude of reasons. But if you can go out there and just figure out how to go sharpen someone else's iron, not yours, go figure out how to sharpen someone else's iron. They will come back and make yours even sharper. And I think that piece right there is the secret to a lot of our success. I know it has been for mine. I know it has been for Sean's. And guys, I'm not professing you to go do this. I'm not challenging you to go do this because it won't work. I said at the beginning, I want to give you some secret sauce better than that Texas barbecue sauce. And that secret sauce is you got to just move in, man. You got to go all in on this thing. And maybe it's selfish reasons, but go do some of it unselfishly. Go give. Go be shepherds. Go be fishers of men. I didn't say that. I'm just trying to hold true to what God's asking me, we, and us to do. And I just encourage you because I know it's changed my life. And I know I have 8 men that I can constantly turn to and say, I got your back, you got mine. And he goes, yeah, I'm sharpening your iron, bro. And I go, cool. And he challenges me and he goes, you gonna sharpen mine? And I go, I'm down, even when I'm tired, even when I don't wanna do this thing. And so fellas, when you leave today, if you don't get the opportunity in that lobby to form a group, it doesn't mean it's too late. It just means you weren't ready tonight. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't. Because if it's on your heart and you're feeling that, that's not me speaking. None of this is me speaking. I don't fill a row every weekend. My wife doesn't fill the row every weekend. God does. We're just the conduits. And so at the end of the day, I just continue to challenge you, because if it changed my life, a broken kid of teenage parents, like Sean said, that shouldn't be sitting in front of anybody speaking about anything. And I can sit here and profess confidently with discipline and with conviction that if you guys go out and do that thing in just a short amount of time, you will feel a massive movement in your life. And it wasn't Mark and it wasn't Sean. It was your decision to be here. It was your decision to challenge yourself on a Friday night in beautiful Austin, Texas, instead of doing the other stuff you were supposed to potentially go do or make the excuse you were supposed. You guys, it wasn't a mistake that you showed up here. So I just want to challenge you guys with that. And I just want to say, hey man, it's not too late. Because some of you need to think about it. Some of you need to go into that cave that you feared to go into. Because remember, the treasures that you're after are in there. But not without you being vulnerable, and not without you being available, and not without you being selfless. And so fellas, my job is not to help anybody become a world champion in the cage. God put me on this earth to help people go out and be champions in life. And I hope with everything I've said today, that you guys just go make a simple decision for yourself and for the people around you. Look to your left, look to your right. You go sharpen iron. And you just say, I just got encouragement to do it. That's it. So with that said, guys, I just want to thank you one more time. And Red Rocks Austin, you guys are amazing. Sean, I love you, bro. You've been amazing.
All right, here's how we're gonna end. I've asked the guys here to have some men come up here, and they're gonna pray for you. And I have specifically asked the leadership team here, nobody who gets paychecks from the church, who works full-time at the church, not pastors, men, dudes, normal guys, praying for normal guys. That's what we're supposed to do. That's how we're supposed to live. And so I'm gonna ask you to ask God to give you 5 seconds of courage. And as this song starts up, if there's something going on in your life that's difficult, as a man of God, come up here and be honest and vulnerable enough to share it with a man of God. And you're gonna pray together. And this is how we're supposed to do life. Amen? If you're going through it, come up here. Let one of these guys pray with you. Let's lock arms, Red Rocks Church men. Let's lock arms and let's go be the world changers that we're called to be. You got this. I believe in you. I love you. Let's worship our God. Let's get some prayer with each other and let's go change the world. Let's go.